headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
Yeah, you and I have spoken often about Cressida Dick. Only in the last couple of weeks, you made your feelings plain, and I think millions of Londoners agree with you. She was not the right person to lead the Met. You must be pleased that she's gone. What did she do wrong as the chief police officer of our great capital city?
Well, there were a number of catastrophic events that happened under her leadership. Of course, the most notable one being that appalling murder of Sarah Everard by a serving Metropolitan Police officer. And that, of course, grabbed headlines around the world. There were other major catastrophes, number of police officers getting charged, sentenced and convicted of other crimes varying from voyeurism to assault and other crimes of corruption. OK, let's face it, the police is made up of human beings, so there will always be errors and wrongdoing. But it was a litany. And in recent times, in particular, there were the revelations just last week of the behaviour of a bunch of police officers at Charing Cross Police Station who exchanged messages that were so vile and repugnant that they had no place in society, let alone among those that we entrust to keep us safe.
And then we find out that, I mean, in fairness to Cressida Dick, that was a few years ago. It's just been revealed. And as you say, Peter, millions of us were absolutely disgusted by those messages, really revolting about rape. They were racist, violence to women. I mean, what those kind of people are doing as police officers, God only knows. But then we find out, out of the 14, 9 are still serving officers, and at least 2 have been promoted. And I think that's been one of Cressida Dick's problems. Millions of us out here in the capital city saying, what do you have to do in the Met Police to get sacked? What do you have to do to get into trouble or to be punished? It seems that nothing you could do got you into any problems at all. That seemed to be the tenor of her leadership.
And I completely understand people feeling that way. And let's just remember, those dreadful text messages and the like happened on Cressida Dick's watch. Whilst they might have originated in 2018, she became commissioner in 2017. So it was very much during her time in charge. But of course, the most catastrophic recent error of judgment that she made was when credible news outlets, The Mirror and ITV News, broke the story of the allegations of potential parties at Downing Street. She said that they were not going to investigate them. And so, of course, that led to the entire nonsense of the Sue Gray report. And then she turned turtle completely and said, oh, no, actually, we will now. So that catastrophic lack of judgment is why, in terms of the Downing Street allegations, the entire nation is now mired in this unsatisfactory no man's land. Yeah. And that is all of Cressida Dick's making.
And most of us concluded she was just trying to look after the Prime Minister by delaying the obvious. So that delayed the release and the publication of Sue Gray's civil service report into Partygate. You can't help thinking maybe Cressida thought, this is my last chance. I'll try and do the Prime Minister a favour and then maybe cling on to my job. Well, that didn't work out. Stay where you are, Peter. We're just going to play a quick clip from the London Mayor Sadiq Khan referring to why he has indicated to Cressida Dick that he has no confidence. Let's have a listen.
I am not satisfied with the Commissioner's response. On being informed of this, Dame Cressida Dick has offered her resignation, which I have accepted. It's clear that the only way to start to deliver the scale of the change required is to have new leadership right at the top of the Metropolitan Police.
I can't pretend to be Sadiq Khan's biggest fan, but he's right on that, isn't he, Peter?
Oh, he's played a very clever game here, because remember, Sadiq Khan does not have the powers to hire or fire a Met Police Commissioner.
It's the Home Secretary, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely it is. But what he did was he set her a trap this week when he said that there are two questions I want answered. One is cuts to the culture of the Met, and the second is how do you regain public trust? Well, of course, it was a trap that she couldn't avoid, because how do you actually tell whether the public have regained their trust in the Met Police? What, do you rely on an opinion poll, or do you stop people in the street for some anecdotal evidence? It was a trap she couldn't avoid. He knew that. She perhaps only realised that today. And so there was an absolute inevitability there when he played a very clever game there, because he clearly wanted her out.
I was just talking to Talk Radio's political editor Peter Cardwell about this, and we were noting that for most of her recent career, she's staggered from one scandal, one mess up to the next. So she was there when de Mendes was accidentally shot dead at Stockwell Police Station, a completely innocent man. Then she was integrally involved in the VIP pedo fiasco of an investigation, Operation Midland, and then the next thing we heard about her, she'd been promoted to police commissioner. But the police have got to stop forgiving all of these kind of massive errors and get someone who hasn't screwed up at every turn, haven't they?
Well, I'll make no apology for going back to 2005 and that dreadful and catastrophic and tragic, almost summary execution of Jean-Charles de Menezes, because I took an enormous interest in that case. And in fact, I performed a one-man show in a theatre in Clapham about it, because I was so utterly appalled at all of the catastrophic errors that led to an entirely innocent man losing his life. Cressida Dick on that day, who was in operational command, issued 9 fatal words, which were, stop him getting on the tube at all costs. When you use the word stop to armed police officers, that essentially means shoot, because police officers shoot to stop. They don't shoot to kill, they shoot to stop somebody doing what they're doing. And in the height of that very, very tense situation, to use that language, to me, showed a real lack of awareness and experience in operational police matters. Now, being a good operational cop does not stop you, unfortunately, from climbing that greasy pole of promotion. And so many of these officers that go through so many ranks to get to the very highest levels are the people that can play the promotion game the best. And they're not necessarily, and often, in fact, are not, the best police officers.
So her replacement, how about someone who didn't necessarily go to Balliol College, Oxford, but a proper copper who knows what it's like to be on the beat, who knows what crime on the front line is like, that kind of an officer? How about someone like that leading the Met?
So many of those kind of officers, of which there are thousands in the Met and throughout the country, don't want to play the promotion game, because when you do, you have to play the politics of policing, and then you have to play the broader politics game, and that's when it all goes wrong. Because why should we expect our police officers to be good at doing politics? We actually want them to be good at doing policing and to stand up to the politicians, to resist the pressures when they know that what they want to do for the cops and the public is best and might fly in the face of the politicians. But let me tell you, if I may, please, Kevin, I know there is disquiet and concern amongst senior politicians within the government about who will replace her. Because what they don't want is another one who's been through the same sort of mincing machine and is going to be the same kind of officer that, quite frankly, they just don't want.
Whoever does get the job, these are my theories, see what you think, Peter. I think that what the police need to do, what the Met Police need to do, is to stop marking their own homework. So when there are screw-ups, like so many that Cressida Dick was involved, they don't investigate it themselves. An independent body does that and finds their conclusions independently. And secondly, it has to be easy to sack officers. I don't like calling for people to lose their jobs, but all 14 of those officers involved in the Charing Cross WhatsApp group should have been fired. All of the officers involved in the post-Wayne Couzens WhatsApp group should have been fired. There should have been no promotions for anyone involved in Operation Midland. Do you see what I'm saying? Would I be right in these assumptions?
I do. And of course, you have to remember that rank and file officers are represented by a pretty powerful police federation, their sort of union. And of course, sometimes officers falsely accused need strong representation. That is only right. My fear is that reform is going to be slow, but what we don't need, in my opinion, is somebody that's going to come in with their chest puffed out and their shoulders pulled back and saying, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to come here with an iron fist and we are going to root it out. I would like to see a commissioner that comes in and says to the vast majority of you who are brilliant cops, I am going to be your friend. Mm-hmm. I will support you. I will stand by you. If you make a genuine, honest mistake, please admit it. We can then apologise, rectify things and move on. To those of you, of course, who choose to behave in an inappropriate manner, who share thoughts that have no place in society, let alone in the police, then do you know what? I'm going to be your worst nightmare. And you will be found out and you will be drummed out.
Exactly. Now, very last point, Peter, running out of time, but the other very important achievement that the next Met Police Chief must attain is they've got to make the people of London feel safe on the streets, particularly women, because right now no one feels safe on the streets of London, and that is Cressida Dick's major, worst failure.
Absolutely, because today, when I watched her on my television going in and out of New Broadcasting House, the base of the BBC in London, she was surrounded by security staff and close protection officers. When the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police cannot walk safely alone on the city in which she is in charge of policing, then she really had to go. She was done for.
Good talk. Hot talk.
Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.